I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, sir.
None.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the last public business meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All right, first on our agenda is National Mental Health Month proclamation. We have Megan Mertz and Heather Haynes from the Mental Health System Office at the Health Department. Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Heather Haynes, and I'm representing the Mental Health Systems Office in the absence of our director, Lisa Deal, who's out of town. Our office is responsible for planning, managing, and overseeing public mental health services within the county, as well as providing some mental health support services for specific populations. In those roles, the MHSO interacts daily with mental health providers and individuals who are seeking or receiving mental health service through Maryland's public behavioral health system.
Hi. Thank you for having us here today and for recognizing May as Mental Health Month in Allegany County. My name is Megan Mertz, and I'm a former staff member of the Mental Health Systems Office. I'm also a member of the Queen City Striders. Last year, I asked Lisa Deal, the director of MHSO, if I could plan and coordinate a race in observance of Mental Health Month. The race was very successful, and we had 158 people come out last year. I'm excited to announce that we're planning a second event, which is Saturday, May 13th. The race starts at 8 a.m. at Station Plaza of Canal Place, downtown, and the course is on the Allegany Passage. Every 15 minutes, someone in the United States dies by suicide, and in any given year, nearly 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental illness. Nearly 2/3 of all people with a diagnosable mental illness do not seek treatment. Lack of knowledge, fear of disclosure, rejection of friends, and discrimination are a few reasons why people with mental illness don't seek help. The Mental Health Matters race will raise awareness about this important topic, and the proceeds will benefit mental health consumers for whom no other assistance is available or sufficient. And last year, we had raised $3,300 for the cause, so we're hoping to outdo that this year. For more information or to register for the race, you can go to the Queen City Striders website at www.qcstriders.com or on our Facebook page, the Mental Health Matters Run Walk. Thank you.
Great. We do have a proclamation if you all want to come on up to the front.
Please, anybody that's with you.
Come on, yeah, the whole gang, come on up. Might even be in the newspaper.
Go to the post office.
All right, this is the Allegany County proclamation. And it says, whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, mental health issues are real and prevalent in our nation and community, and half of us will have a mental health diagnosis at some point in our lives or in the lives of loved ones. All individuals with mental health illnesses, even serious mental illnesses, can progress towards recovery and lead full, productive lives. We, the Board of County Commissioners, wish to publicly recognize the significant contributions of all mental health care professionals and sincerely thank them for providing this important health care in our community. And we proclaim May 2017 as National Mental Health Month in Allegany County. That's signed the 20th day of April 2017. Creed Brody, Bill Valentine, Jim Shade. Congratulations. And I will say, our health department just does an outstanding job on that. I'm our representative on the Board of Mental Health, and we had talked to people from the Finance Center and the Health Department, and they're on the front lines every day, and it's amazing what they do with limited resources. So thank you all for your professionalism. Moving to item number 2, we have a road closing petition for LaVale United Methodist Church. Mr. Getty's not here. Mr. Rudd?
Yes, this was subject of a hearing and a vote several weeks ago to open the road. Today would be a hearing to close the road. If anybody is here to speak in opposition or in favor, I know there's a couple of people here from the LaVale Methodist Church who's the petitioner. So it may be appropriate to see if there's anybody here who wants to speak for or against, and if not, then you could take action today if you so chose to complete it.
This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment for or against this road opening? All righty. Hearing none, is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
You good?
All right, item number 3 is a public hearing for the Bowling Green Community Enhancement Project. Mr. Nedved.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Always pressure. Hello, Commissioners. Notice was given in the Cumberland Times-News on Saturday, April 20th, last Saturday, that the Allegheny County Commissioners would sponsor public hearings on the following subjects. 1, to obtain the views of citizens on community development and housing needs, and 2, to offer the citizens the opportunity to review an application or to discuss for the funds to assist the Bowling Green Community Enhancement Project. And at this time, Commissioners, I'd like to hold a public hearing and ask if anyone has any comments or questions about these subjects.
Hearing none.
Hearing none? Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Mr. Nedved.
Thank you.
You did it in 2 minutes. You did good.
All right. Next up, we have our fiscal year 2018 preliminary budget hearing. This is our, I think, 3rd or 4th meeting that's been discussed, but this is the preliminary budget, and I think the press has copies, as does everyone up here.
And I have a few extra if anyone's interested. I'll leave them up here. Good evening.
Mr. Wilmot.
There's a couple up there.
Oh, well, as you said, we've been talking about this for some time now, since January. So tonight would be essentially our first glance at the entire budget that we've been working on all this time. So I'm just going to take you through some of the highlights tonight, and then if you have any questions, by all means, ask. After tonight, we'll have 2 hearings, and then we'll adopt the budget on June 1st. So with that, I'm just going to jump right in. What we have tonight is a balanced budget in front of you, $86,897,607. That's a 0.7% increase from fiscal year 17, so it's a pretty small increase. The slide up in front of you here are just some highlights of our revenues. You may actually want to call them lowlights. As you can see, they're reductions, unfortunately. We've talked about most of these, but I'll still go through them. Property taxes are down this year, $251,000, based on, once again, stagnant assessments, and also the 1/10 of a penny reduction, which we've done now for the 7th consecutive year. So we've seen property taxes decline and be stagnant for essentially 10 years now, and that trend simply continues for us. Right below that is a maybe more immediate concern to us is income taxes. We're writing income taxes down by $500,000 this year. That's based on a fall 2016 revenue rate down by the state of Maryland, and just so far poor fiscal year 17 performance. We're off pace right now by about $800,000 from our fiscal 17 estimates. So we hope it rebounds for us. It's been strong recently, but right now we need to write it down. Other local taxes you can see are actually up a little bit, $325,000, and Those are from transfer, recreation, hotel, motel. They're all three up slightly. We all know the next line item, highway user revenue, the state helped us out a little bit at the end of the session. We did get a supplemental grant of $219,000, which we rolled directly into the roads budget so that they can spend next year. That overall has us up $213,000 from last year. And then finally, the last number we talked about 2 weeks ago is unexpended fund balance. At your request, we've built this budget with $967,000 of fund balance. Represents essentially 1% of the budget. It's largely so that we can cover health insurance increase, which we've talked about at length. It's about a 16% increase we've experienced this year. This will help balance the budget, get us through this year. We obviously need to work to try to make sure we're not using fund balance as we go forward, and we'll work to alleviate some of those costs through looking at a retirement incentive and also rebidding our health insurance next year. Same kind of slide here, except now we'll look at our expenditures, some of the big changes we've seen. Once again, as we've talked about at length, health insurance and COLAs this year are the main drivers in the increases. There's $884,000 in the general fund, and as you look countywide, we're over $1 million in an increase from health insurance. We all knew that was coming. We'll work to control those costs going forward. One of the big things we needed to do to balance the budget this year was the PEGO transfer. You can see we eliminated it this year. Last year, we had a good year and we were able to put nearly $800,000 into PEGO. This is an easy way to kind of balance the budget this year, but it does have a lasting effect. We use PEGO as a way to knock off smaller projects so that we don't have to borrow from them. So we can do this one time. Going forward, it's nice to be able to put some money into PEGO every year to take care of some small projects. Also discussed at great length would be the Board of Education. We have a $254,000 increase to them. That's as a result of sticking to maintenance of effort. We got hit with an education effort increase this year from the state of Maryland. It's 2.1%, and that essentially makes us keep up with the state average for education funding. So even though the Board of Ed was down to slightly more than 100 students, overall maintenance of effort ticks up a little bit. And then just a couple smaller things, but just to show you that we did some of the things we talked about in the work session. We've included an additional $7,000 for roof repairs at the Cumberland Theater, an extra $76,000 for our fire companies, and that's largely based on the new appropriation allocation that the board went over and you guys approved last year, and also to cover some extra equipment that they needed. And then the last thing you see there is Frostburg Main Street made a request to us. So we're going to fund $7,000 of the $15,000 request. Just real quickly, we'll touch on rates that we've included in this budget. You can see the top rate, income tax rate, 3.05%. It's unchanged. We currently sit 8th highest in the state on that rate, so nearly middle of the road. The real property rate, as we've discussed, it's down 1/10 of a penny to 0.9760. That puts us 10th lowest in the state. We have been moving down the charts there, which I think is a nice place to be. The 1/10 of a penny reduction costs us roughly $40,000 a year. Cumulatively, we're losing $280,000 a year from that. That's essentially $280,000 a year we're putting back in taxpayers' pockets. And going back to the beginning of this 7-year cycle, about $1.1 million have gone back to taxpayers' pockets as a result of your decision to bring down real estate taxes.
Jason, real quick, the reduction effective July the 1st will essentially put us right tied with Dorchester County where they're at right now.
That's right. That's right. So we moved down one more tick. We're essentially tied for 10th place is where we'll be.
And I think we're the only county in the last 5 years that's reduced property tax rates.
Yeah, I've been met in more than a couple meetings down there with question marks from those people. How could you think about reducing taxes?
Because we hate taxes.
You guys have, said it. It's the right thing to do. The other rates there are unchanged too. Recordation at $3.50. Homestead credit for the second year now is down to 4%. That costs us roughly $11,000 a year. This pie chart here just breaks down all of our revenues, and I won't spend a ton of time on it. I just want to point out a couple things. One, real property taxes, as they've been declining on us over the past essentially decade, we're now below 50% of our budget's covered by real property taxes. It used to be over 50%. So the declines, it certainly hit us. Income tax, local income taxes make up almost 31% of our budget. And you can see there, about middle on the right, the state disparity grant now makes up just over 10% of our budget. So certainly a big number to us and an important grant to us from the state. Everything else from the state and feds makes up less than 2% of our budget. And as I mentioned, fund balance is down there towards the bottom at 1.1% of our budget. So even though we had to use some, it's thankfully not a very big piece of the pie. A very small piece, so hopefully we can reduce that piece in the coming years. This slide's honestly not quite complete yet. These are all the different funds outside of the general fund's included, but all of our other special revenue and enterprise funds in the county. I'll just highlight a couple here. The water and sewer budgets down towards the bottom are obviously bigger numbers. We're still working on them, so they're a little bit in draft status. We actually go to the Sanitary Commission next week to talk about that budget, and then we'll present more to you, I think, on May the 4th about those budgets. You'll see the Rocky Gap slots revenues listed up towards the top, another increase there. Last year it was $1.475 million, so the state's forecasted another nice jump in those funds for us. And I think they've been put to good use. The transit fund budget's in there at $2.9 million. It's good to point out it's a $2.9 million budget. The general fund's piece of that is only $384,000. So we get a lot of work out of federal and state grants out of that fund. This is one we've been doing for a couple years now. It's probably, if we had to pick just one slide out of this whole presentation to use, this might be the best one. So we just simply broke out a dollar bill to show where your tax dollars are actually being spent. You can see on the left side, nearly half of the budget goes to education. Between the Board of Ed and Allegheny College of Maryland, 43%. Kind of in the middle, we spend a little over 20% on public safety, and just a few examples there. That would be the sheriff for about $3.2 million, our detention center at $7.7 million, 911 at $2.4 million, and fire companies just over $1 million. To the upper right side, you'll see a little over 12% for public works. That would be about $8.2 million for our roads budget, which, because of highway user cuts, has been absorbed by our general fund. Engineering makes up about another $1 million of that budget. On the right top, something I think is good. General government only makes up 10% of your budget. So those are things like the state's attorney's office, county administrator's office, legal office, finance and tax offices, all of our administrative functions. I've mentioned this before, but just like a nonprofit, you want to spend as little as possible on your administrative function, and we're only at 10%. So I think that's a good thing. We're putting the dollars to work. A couple other little ones there that you can see. Social services, health make up not quite 4%. Recreation and culture is 8.5%, and economic development is down at the bottom then too. So the RBF's largely picking up the tab for economic development, so we can keep that outside of the general fund.
And when we look at education and public safety, you got to remember, when people are city taxpayers wherever they are, they're getting the benefit of the Board of Education, of AC, of the detention center. That's over half the budget is going to things that are not being provided by city governments.
Yep, and there's a lot more detail to come on that one.
Very next
Just
slide.
a slide or two here. This slide here, we actually looked at just what we just showed you a little bit differently. We broke out our expenditures now based on how they get allocated. So 51% of our budget, almost 52% of the budget goes directly out the door in the form of appropriations. And you can see there on the left who that's made up of. And, to everyone we certainly know, we spend a lot of time talking about Board of Ed, Allegheny College, Health Department, Library, HRDC, fire companies, and others. Then on the right side, salaries and fringe, it's one of the big misnomers probably for government. Most say, well, most of your expenditures are salaries and fringe. Well, for us, it's only 30% of the budget. Most of it's actually being spent on services. Debt service down towards the bottom is down at 3%. We'll have a little more on that. We're still under our debt service goals of $3 million. One concerning skinny borrow in here would be capital outlay at just over 1%. That's where you go when the budgets are tight, obviously, but when we do that too many times, we could fall behind on some of our capital needs. So we're going to need to be careful with that one going forward. Commissioner Shade, this would be kind of what you just mentioned. Every year, we put together this slide to show services that aren't provided by municipal government that are in our budget. So you can see there's 27 services there. They make up 70% of our budget. And I won't hit all of them, but the big ones we've talked about a bunch. Board of Ed, Detention Center, Allegheny College. Our debt service actually is all spent on things that municipalities do not do. 911 center is totally the county's responsibility now. State's Attorney's Office, Health Department, Library, and the list goes on. So a little over 70% of the budget goes towards things that city taxpayers aren't paying for. And the other 29.6% is actually covered by tax differential, which is, Bill can attest, has been proven in court twice over. So we give tax differential to all the municipalities. And just an example, City of Frostburg and City of Cumberland average a 14-cent break on the county tax bill. So that's 14 cents off the rate. So they're paying 14% less than someone in unincorporated areas. And that's for the remaining 29% of our budget. So we think we're putting our dollars to good work here versus city dollars. Debt service, this is our debt service transfer, and we did a little bit of a different chart this year on this. It shows last year's numbers versus this year's and the different categories of debts been incurred for. I'll just point out a few things. You can see down at the bottom, 1.5 million of the 2.9 million goes towards Board of Education projects, and that's made up almost entirely of the new Allegany High School and Mountain Ridge High Schools. And you can see public safety right above that at $742,000. That's ticked up from last year. It's almost doubled from last year as a direct result of the $9 million borrowing we just did back in January. Most of that borrowing went to the EMS radio upgrade, so it has a direct effect here. You can see some of the other categories there where we've incurred debt. We just did a new project at Allegheny College, so they're on there. There's some public works projects. We've obviously had a couple borrowings for our library system as well. But the important point here is we're under our debt service goals of $3 million. And we'll go into a lot more detail on that in 2 weeks as we do our CIP presentation and debt affordability. This next slide is a little bit busy and I won't spend tons of time on it, but every year we like to break out our funding for the biggest education agencies. First one would be Allegheny College of Maryland, and essentially their request to us was flat, so the funding from us is flat as well. About middle of the sheet there, you'll see that the enrollment for Allegheny College is actually down just over 4%, and as you come down to the very bottom, you'll see our spending per student is up just slightly 4%, which obviously corresponds. So also included in there is our debt service appropriation, which we just talked about. So this is always good to have just for comparison's sakes. The next one's the same slide, just for the school board. And there's one more piece added in there. We obviously have a paper gaming transfer in there. I will note their enrollment numbers on this slide do include pre-K. Maintenance of efforts not calculated on pre-K. It's only K through 12. Yet, yeah. The day's probably coming. But we've always done this slide including pre-K. There's been an uptick in pre-K for the Board of Ed, so their overall enrollment's actually up slightly from last year. So even though our maintenance of effort is up and our spending overall is up for the Board of Ed, it'll look like we're slightly down. That's directly due to pre-K. And I will note, just because we've been talking about this, as of today, we still do not have the Board of Education's audit in hand. I'm guessing sometime in May is when we're going to get that. We have incurred some legal costs at this point in updating our bond disclosures. And we have the rating agencies reaching out to us on an almost weekly basis now, inquiring about when that audit may be finished. So the heat's starting to be applied. The state could obviously take action on this too and withhold disparity grant or whatever they so choose. The General Assembly would have to take action. So that's still hanging out there for us. Hopefully it can get resolved soon. And with that, that's pretty well the end of the presentation tonight. As I mentioned, we'll do another hearing on May the 4th, and then also May 18th. We're going to have this document available online immediately after tonight's meeting. We'll present our capital improvement program next week, or in 2 weeks. If anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to email us, call us, whatever. We're happy to talk and help. And then, as long as all goes well, budget adoption is slated for June 1st. So, unless there's any questions, that's it for me.
I think Tammy was signed to speak.
Thank you, Jace.
Thank you.
All righty, moving to item number 5, we have a lease agreement with Specs Chemical, Inc. Mr. Barclay.
Thank you, Commissioners. As you see here, item number 5, the Department of Economic and Community Development are seeking the Board of County Commissioners' consent to approve a 10-year lease agreement with Specs Chemical for the Burbridge Building in North Branch Industrial Park, and to authorize the President to sign. Specs Chemical, just a little background, Specs Chemical has been in Allegany County since 2002. They're a Netherlands-based company, and they moved into our Burbridge building, which was a spec building. They moved into about 14,000 square feet of that building since that time. With this lease, they'll be taking the whole entire building, 24,000. What's basically transpired is Specs came into an opportunity. There was a bidding process where they were able to land a contract with Johnson & Johnson for mainly for chemical compound storage. So what we're hopeful of is this new contract will make them more solvent and give them the ability to bid for more services out there and get some real employment in that building over the next few years.
Great.
Fantastic.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Commissioners, so while we have Jeffrey at the podium,
Sure.
we're going to take you back just a few days. Jeffrey and I had an opportunity to travel around the county earlier this week, and we visited the 2 solar farm sites that the county initiated development for. And we were at Mexico Farms earlier this week and out on Darrow's Lane, and we're nearing completion. You think we're within about 30 to 45 days of activation of both of those sites, Jeff?
Yeah, it's pretty much the panels are in place out there. They need to do a little bit of seeding and mulching kind of stuff to clean up, and then the interconnection still has to be done between the finished switchgear panels and the transformer to the main line. And as Dave said, we expect that to be done in the next, I guess, 30 to 60 days. And they're 1 megawatts each, and we'll hopefully then start seeing some savings on our wastewater treatment plants. So that's the meters that we'll be going through.
Well, we had to be creative in how we cleared those sites, and since we have Mr. Martz in the back this evening and Mr. Kale, we want to thank those 2 gentlemen for their efforts in helping to clear and grub those sites. so that those two projects can move forward.
Absolutely.
Great.
Just so everyone knows, Kenny Martz is the road supervisor of the Old Town Garage, and him and his guys did a fantastic job. And without the help that they put into projects like this, it's undoable. You know, and since while we're just following up the budget, we're able to do this stuff with, how much we get in highway user revenue now, Dave, totals 700,000?
It's about 7K,
Yeah.
Almost
And
there.
a high water mark was 5.7 million?
4.5.
Oh, okay.
That was a long
And that disappeared in 2010, 11?
No.
Yeah, so budget year 10, so,
Someday we'll get back,
yeah. Yeah, we will.
a couple of years.
But yeah, I echo that too, Commissioner Brody, with our Public Works, and we all kind of pitch in for in-kind services
Yeah.
to get projects done, so.
Really lean on these guys, and they haven't let us down, so, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, moving to our consent agenda. Mr. Eberly.
Commissioners, tonight we have 6 items on your consent agenda for possible action. Item number 6 is a motion to appoint Valerie Lease to serve a 2-year term on the county's Solid Waste Management Board. Item 7 is a motion to approve a travel request for staff to attend a Motorola training program in Florida in the month of June. Items 8 and 9 are motions to declare surplus 6 vehicles in the county's Department of Public Works and 7 vehicles currently in possession of the Allegany County Sheriff's Office, and authorize their sale at auction. Item 10 is a motion to declare surplus 4 properties acquired by the county via our tax sale program and authorize their resale to the public. And item 11 is a motion to authorize the Utilities Division to continue the design phase of the Braddock Run Sewer Rehab Project, which is project number S84, and the Bedford Road Sewer Rehab Project S87, and move those projects to bid and authorize the president to sign all necessary funding documents.
Any discussion?
No, sir. I guess our vehicles are gone.
Creed bought them all.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I know that 93 Ford Tempo, we're gonna,
Well, I probably last to drive it. Probably pieces and parts of it laid all over the place, such as most county vehicles that I take to drive, so.
Commissioners, if I may, I wanted to just say one more thing about Specs
Sure.
Chemical. Dave Hayes, who is our local contact that we
Yes.
normally work, and he comes through occasionally. He unfortunately couldn't make it this evening. We wanted to put this in front of you, but he couldn't make it this evening. He was on business someplace else, but he's anxious. When he gets back in the area and we have a meeting, he would like to come to the podium and say a few words on behalf of the company and how good the county's been to him, so.
Good.
great.
That's fantastic. We want him to get out there and keep beating the business, because we want him to continue to grow, so.
Mr. Eberly.
Commissioners, just one brief announcement. We were advised early this afternoon that Kelly Road will actually be shut down next Wednesday and Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. so that Potomac Edison can fix a utility pole near the railroad trestle. So for those folks wanting to do business with Allegany County next Wednesday or Thursday, we invite you to take the Patterson Street access down Patterson Avenue. Is that pretty good, Bill?
Patterson Avenue, pretty good.
It's near where you live, right?
No,
So it's a shortcut for
but
you.
West Side most of my life, that's what it is.
All right, so just wanted to make that notice public, and I understand our staff has already reached out to businesses in the back to let them know that there'll be challenges certainly getting tractor and trailers back down Kelly Road. So, but vehicle traffic, there shouldn't be a problem.
What's those dates one more time?
Next Wednesday and Thursday, April 26th and 27th.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
Attorney Rudd.
I have nothing. Welcome back from your trip.
There we go.
We're going to get a travel log?
Commissioner, well, that'll
Pictures?
be put in the minutes. We'll file those. Commissioner Valentine.
Just something real quick. I see people here from Cumberland Speedway, and I would just like to congratulate them. They had their grand opening last Saturday, I've been around a lot of dirt tracks for a lot of years, and I'll tell you, that racing surface was probably one of the best racing surfaces I've seen anywhere. And if that track continues to operate like that, I think we're going to see a real growth. The stands were full as it was, and I think we'll see a growth in the size of the fields. So congratulations, guys.
Mr. Brody?
Yeah, sir, I'll just keep it very brief. Just on this budget, this is something that the three of us take extremely, extremely serious, and it's something that all three of us have set out to do, is to get Allegany County the very most we could with the money available. So Jason, thank you very much for this, because I know at times we ask almost the impossible all the time. We want to spend more money with less coming in and not touch fund balance, and we ask you to keep bending and twisting, and we ask a lot of our employees to step up and across every field of the county, from public works all the way across to finance, to do much more with less, and everybody has always stepped up, so we most certainly appreciate that. And the last thing I have to say is, gentlemen, congratulations again. I've heard nothing but good stuff about what's going on out there, so I didn't make the last race. I know Bill was out there. I was out there for the Enduro race, and what a blast everybody had, so I can't wait to see the next one of them that he's put together.
Great.
And as the summer season starts and everybody is up to Mr. Rudd's elaborate cookouts, please drive carefully when leaving, because it is getting that time of the year where he likes to have yards full of people. And we will all look forward to that.
Who?
What are you smoking?
I will say, this part is buried in the budget, but look, we take this very seriously, and what we're able to do is keep spending very, very low. So this year the increase was, I think, 0.7%. Last year it was under 2%. For a government, that's pretty good. When you're keeping spending below inflation, when you're committed to tax cuts and trying to provide service at the minimal cost to the taxpayers, that's something I'm proud of, and I know these gentlemen are too. And it kind of pays off in the long run that we don't have these huge budget challenges, and we don't have to consider huge cuts or huge tax increases to pay for it. And I will say to Cumberland, since they're in the news, we're willing to help if there's services that can be combined, that can be a benefit to all taxpayers in the county. We're willing to discuss that with you, because we're all in this together, and taxes are already pretty high for city residents and residents of the state of Maryland. So look, it's going to take all levels of government, I think, working together and trying to see where there's going to be cost savings, because the fact is, I think that we have too much government for the number of people we have. And that's not just us, that's the state of Maryland and the federal government. So these next couple of years, I think there's going to be some soul searching. And the other part of it is the public needs to be involved. They need to say what they want. I don't want any tax increases. So that's the start of my my decision-making process, and I think most people are on the same page. So that's kind of where we'll leave it on that. And I'll also say this: I was traveling last week, and it's so good to be home. We talk about all the problems we have, not just here, but in the U.S. But at the end of the day, when someone needs medical care, when they want to study, when they want to work for one of the most prestigious companies in the world, they're not going anywhere else. They're coming to the United States of America. And they talk about immigration, and they say the problem we're going to have with immigration is when people want to stop coming here. Because regardless of all of our problems, people still want to come and live in the United States of America, and we should be proud of that. So,
One thing I'd like to add about the budget, if I could, Jake, I think one of the most telling things is when Craig and I first got in office, debt service was approaching $6 million a year, and now we're capped at $3 million. We're operating below $3 million, so we've cut taxes annually, and we've cut our debt service. So I think that shows we're definitely going in the right direction.
it's very impressive, and just from last year, debt service is down, even though we borrowed for radios, and it's below $3 million still. All right. With that, we have a couple of people signed up to speak this evening. We'll be reminded you have 5 minutes. So first is Tammy Fraley, our Board of Education member. Welcome. You can put the computer screen down, but there you go.
If you know how to work on it.
If I know how to work on it. Hello, my name is Tammy Fraley. I live at 913 Groudon Terrace in Cumberland, Maryland. I come today to talk about asking a favor of all government, but specifically today to ask you guys the same thing that I talked about. I did go to the City of Cumberland's meeting, and they have the same concerns. And so today I come here to ask to be part of an overall approach. I'm not here as a Board of Education member per se. I know I always have that hat on, but I'm also a citizen of Cumberland and a citizen of Allegany County. And I think we all want to have a place to live. For me personally, to have my children here, to have a great place for them to live, and for me to retire. I want to stay here. So I attended the town hall meetings for the city, and you can see there that there was a struggle on how they're going to meet the needs of their citizens. Here, you guys had a challenge with your budget to meet the needs of your citizens. And of course, as you know, I'm a Board of Education member, so we struggle with our budget to meet the needs of the students of our system. So how can we do this? How can we work together as a team? So I was part of a conference on March 17th, and there was a person there, his name was Mick, and he wrote a book. The book is called Making the Impossible Possible. And I think that we really need to consider looking at how we can all be part of a solution, much like what Jake was just talking about, of working together as a team. Everybody needs to work together, the county, the city, the state. If we can all work together to look at ways to make where we live better. And he had a saying that he's, again, making the impossible possible, but he also had an amazing thing that he did. He stepped outside of the box to try to make a difference. And on the last page of his journal, it says, everybody take out a piece of paper and draw a box. And it's empty. When you look at it, it's empty. But the key thing is, don't think of it as an empty box. Think of it as a clean slate, a new start, a new way. So don't go backwards. Take your box and start something new. Because the next thing you know, we, as a community, may just do the impossible. So I really do think that we do need to try, as a group, all together. And I talked to the city about this too, and now at the county, and at the Board of Education. I mean, we all need to try. And even the Speedway part, what I saw you guys do, I haven't been able to go out there because I can't get my kids to want to go, but I have heard wonderful things. Of course, you guys know I'm on Facebook a lot, and you can see, yes, there's some naysayers, there's some people that are upset, but what you guys did in that with the county, all of those people, that stand was full, like Bill said, this last time, completely full. That means that we as a community can come together. So I just ask the county commissioners, as well as all the other government agencies, to try to work together to make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fraley.
Thanks, Sammy.
And the other piece of this, important to remember, when the economic pie isn't growing, then everyone's going to be fighting for what's left over. But when we can grow our tax base and bring more revenue in without raising taxes on people, we just have more economic activity. A lot of these problems start to solve themselves. You know, unfortunately, Maryland's just having a problem statewide. It's not just here that their income taxes and their property taxes aren't meeting up with expectations. So everyone's getting squeezed, and I hope we can turn that around locally, and the governor can work to turn that around statewide. All right, next up we have Rick Pittenger, Speedway. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the kind comments on the Speedway. As you guys know, Todd and I, Andrea, and a huge group of people have put a lot of time and effort into getting where it's at. I think, you know, we're here to just kind of give you an overview of what's going on with us. You know, we got what I think could be one of the biggest compliments on Facebook this week from a driver 2 hours away was he put it ahead of Eldora Speedway, which is owned by NASCAR driver Tony Stewart. For where we had it over the weekend, I mean, it's really got attention. Appalachian Speed Week's already requested to come in. They wanted to come in this year. Unfortunately, it interferes with the ABATE scheduling, so next year, you know, we want to bring them in. You know, Lucas Oil's actually contacted Todd. I mean, there's people taking notice all over the East Coast of this dirt trash. And you can see from the crowd, you know, it's, the community's really responding. We got people coming from everywhere. One thing we did want to make the public aware of, and I don't think it's ever been done at Speedway, but Bill, you were there, you seen what we had. I got a check in my pocket right now that's going to be presented to the animal shelter for $3,200 that we're donating now the Speedway funds to the animal shelter. We collected another $700 in donations for the animal shelter there, plus $671, I believe, for the shoemaker boy that got killed at West Vaco last week to give to the family. So in one race, we've put almost $4,600 back into the community. That's never been done out there. You know, I even as much respect as I have for Ben and Nancy, and they were our VIP guests, and we had Ben back out there Saturday night. It's never been done. Can we do that every race and survive? No, but we're going to do it when we can. And you know, I think we got to head in the right direction with your help. Mr. Cale and Kevin out there has been very good to work with. You know, everybody's pulling the same way, and I think we're going to be fine. So I know we got a few noise complaints, but unfortunately, you take 10 of those late models and put them out there, that's 10,000 horsepower out there. I mean, it's...
Well, actually, the sad thing about it is, I think it's probably the 4 cylinders that sound carries further.
Yeah, we got them muffled up, and you know, I had to shift gears there. Todd and I had to make some decisions on Winter Circle presentation Saturday night to make sure we did get in before the 11 o'clock, because we don't have any problems. You know, it amazes me that you drive down Moss Avenue and they'll call us and say there's a little bit of dust on the road, but you drive down Moss Avenue and they all blow their grass out in the middle of the road before it pile up and plug the drains and everything. I'm thinking, where's this going? So, you guys have any concerns or questions about Speedway and where we're at with it? Anybody?
Keep it up. Congratulations.
Well, we're, you know, like I said, it's a group of people. You know, we got 25 people out there right now picking rock while we're here. And by the time we go eat dinner and screw around a little bit, it'll be dark and we won't have to help.
Thanks, Hyundai.
Just keep filibustering here. That's right.
But you know, the big thing we're proud of is donating this money to the animal shelter and stuff. I think it's for a good cause, and we're going to continue to do things for needy organizations in the county that can use it. So.
Well, you've come a long way fast from the first time Todd approached us being the promoter, the amount of volunteer army that you've put together and make things happen the way you did.
Yeah,
It's impressive.
We got our worker group, and then we got our core group. You know, when we got sound make decisions, it's me, Todd, Andrew, and a few others. When we got to do work, we put a Facebook post out there, and people just flock in with equipment. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think the success is coming from your track is a track run by the racers themselves. You know, a lot of tracks, somebody goes in, they're a business person running a racetrack, and they've never even seen a race before. And that just doesn't work.
Yeah, and, you know, and the people, we've been passing out, we don't turn anybody away. If somebody comes and wants to bring their family to race and don't have money, we'll let them in. We give out 1,000 tickets a week for free, you know. I mean, we want people there. I got called to the gate Saturday night about halfway through, and there was a gentleman, he was a missionary from, I think he said Cambodia. And he knew one of the drivers, but he didn't have no money to get in. I said, bring the man in the gate. I'll give him a ride to where he wanted to go. You know, we don't turn nobody away. You know, it's going to be a great community thing, I think. So, if you guys have any questions or concerns, you know how to get a hold of us.
Great.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
All righty. Our next public business meeting is Thursday, May 4th, 2017, 5 o'clock in this room. May the 4th be with you. And meeting's adjourned.